Everybody, welcome back. It's Patrick here with another episode of RevTalks. Today we're here with Jim. How's it going, Jim?
Hey, not too bad. And yourself?
Great. I appreciate you joining on today and taking some time out of your morning. Would you mind walking us through a little bit about the company, what you guys are called, and what you guys do from a high level perspective?
So a couple different companies. My own LLC is called Maker Turtle, and that primary business is twofold. One is advisory for investment startups and stuff like that. I work with a venture capital firm that's north of Chicago, and we do venture placement. So I'm driving their advisory service. And then also the other part of Maker Turtle is I'm writing a couple of applications, giving everybody on AI. And actually, it was one, but just last week I had a really cool conversation with somebody. So now it's two cool applications.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the company name is called Maker Turtle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what exactly does that mean? I know that might confuse a lot of people, especially the audience. I know you guys on the website have listed about digital transformation with operations,
Yeah.
products, things like that. What do you guys kind of do? And what's kind of the name behind it as well? It's very interesting.
Well, the name is just, I had a great idea for a little business name. And right when I was registering, in the LLC, I found out that it was too close to a bunch of other things. So I panicked looking for something. But the story of Maker Turtle is and this is before your time, but way back in the day, they used to try to get people to sign up for AOL by sending out discs, little plastic diskettes. And the diskettes came with the password for the account. They each represented a different account, and they each had a unique password on it. And I thought the internet was a joke. I didn't think it was real. I was only like 20 something at this time. But I got one. It was yellow, and it had Maker plus Turtle was the password to get on to AOL. And I was like, okay, that kind of struck my fancy. And so that was my password for AOL getting onto it. Fast forwarding, it was like I used it for password, but never used it for anything real. And I wanted a domain that was a lot easier to spell than my previous one. You know how to spell it in here. It was built initially just to be a cost collector for a book I wrote. But when I left corporate America, I decided to make that LLC my consulting fund. So I've been doing consulting advisory for about 6 years now. For folks trying to do startups or even established businesses. I have a pretty decent business, established businesses trying to get into the software arena. Hey, we had automated something
Nice.
for our internal operation. You think it'd be really cool to sell it? And
I
most
like
of
it. I really like the name. I was looking at the company website briefly a couple of days
yeah,
ago as well before you jumped on the podcast. And I noticed we talked on another call, obviously a week or two ago. And I was thinking, I was like, that's very unique. It's something that definitely stands out. Obviously, it's not like totally brand alignment, which is okay,
yeah,
but it's something that, like you said, everybody can spell, everybody can remember it. And
yeah.
it's something that I think sticks out. So yeah, props to you for that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that kind of idea of wanting to do something unique like that, but most don't really do it in that way. So yeah, definitely props to you for that.
No, thank you. That's cool. Yeah, you see a lot of product names and stuff sticking an AI in there somewhere, and they're shortened versions of words. It's been done. You do something that's interesting, but also super easy to sell. I mean, super easy to remember.
Definitely. And I noticed on the website too, you guys have different boxes with strategy, research, leadership, advisory, tactics. Those are kind of some of the services that you guys provide. Can you touch briefly on the services section, maybe on advisory and strategy and leadership? Just kind of touch on those. How do you guys help businesses, and what are the businesses that you guys help out with those specific services?
So strategy and leadership is more on the coaching type stuff, and I did that for a while, certainly during COVID. But I kind of don't really stress that now. Probably should update that piece of the database. The key thing though is the advisory. Primarily, like I said, for startups or people trying to do it's really been product strategy. But I've got one I'm working on right now that it's almost like the company has a really great piece of software, but it's a well-established financial fund. And so the big question is, what exactly are you? Are you a financial fund that has a piece of software that you remote, or are you going to get in the software business and have this funded? And it's really interesting because it gets into a lot of different areas, and all the conversations always do. What are you trying to accomplish with this business? Are you just trying to make money? Are you trying to make a difference? Are you trying to change something? And do you really understand who your customer is and how they need, their problems? So that's the kind of work we do. And then certainly leading up to business models that sort of project revenue and project expenses to support that revenue, because at the end of the day, you're going to investors and banks looking for funding, and that sounds easy, but actually it's hard on. But we help it all.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, and the businesses at those different scales and stages of the actual lifespan of the business are
Yeah,
probably needing those different services. I'm sure it's kind of a little bit of maybe not just one, but it's kind of both. Leadership, I'm sure, kind of bleeds into strategy a little bit. And then when you deal with strategy, it kind of bleeds into advisory a little bit. And so do you offer those as different packages within the actual services section?
yeah.
Or do you provide them all at once encompassing and have different modules, or how is that kind of breaking down?
The easiest way to understand it is modules. I've got a whole because it's not even a deliverable; it's a chunk of thinking or work that has to be done. And it's something will appear as a deliverable in a slide deck or something like that. At the end of the day, we're building different slides than investor deck. But the list of components include things like, do you understand your customer? What is your strategy? What is your market? What is your moat? Excuse me. Who's running the ship, and who's focused on stuff? If you're really good technical but don't know how to be a CEO, then be a COO and hire a CEO type of thing. So we help people understand their team. And if it's a bigger company, we're helping them once they hit a growth level. You're going to have to think differently, let some things go, push them down, and sort of evaluate your team as well. So we'll do people stuff. Then things like building a deck, it's really just here's the message to deliver. Keep it simple. Don't go nuts. AI is going to make really pretty looking thing, but a pretty looking thing ain't going to get money. You gotta tell the investor, how much you're looking for, what are you going to do with the money, and what problem are you solving. Um, Actually, not quite in that order. You should tell me right away who's your customer and what problem are you solving. Then tell me how much money you need. Then tell me what you're going to do with it, and then we'll get into details later. And most people go right to look at my great technology. It's so cool. No, no, no. Don't do that.
Right. It's definitely having a proven process in order to make things successful and really just kind of nailing the frameworks. So over the past couple of decades, you being in the space, has there been more of a very consistent framework? I know you put things into modules and lessons and things like that, but have you seen trends overall that have historically worked well throughout different booms, bubbles, times, and things like that throughout the internet landscape?
Well, certainly the technology always changes, and it seems to change faster than ever. But really, the way you have to. Okay, so to your specific question, I have a very simple framework for defining a business, any business. Who are your customers? What are your products? How do you run operations? How do you manage the data that drives it all? And the team, your people. And through history, my history at least, there have been big changes in computing, humongous changes, but only like four. And people go like, what is the first one? In the 80s, ERP came along and changed how we ran our companies, changed operations. In the 2000s, the internet came out, and that fundamentally changed the nature of the connection with your customer. In the 2010s, IoT, the Internet of Things came along. What that really did was change the nature of your products and put technology there. And now AI is just finishing it off, and the AI fundamentally changes the nature of your team and the kind of folks you need on the team. Sure, size, but definitely the skill sets. And using that sort of high level framework, don't think too much. It's just these five pieces. But anytime you're going to do a transformation, uh, uh, if I explain it in that framework, this is where it's going to impact, this is how it's going to impact, then the people that are, in the end of the day, it's always change management. That you manage the change by putting something new into a framework that folks understand and can see themselves in. And then you can have the honest conversations about, okay, this is where we need to change. We need to be sharper at our data. We need to capture more knowledge. We need to be more rigorous. We need to have a two-way conversation with our customers. And so that framework of all the 5 building blocks. That's my kind of go-to to keep things up.
Definitely. I see. And so when you're dealing with these different companies, historically, what is kind of the company that you are mainly dealing with? The kind of more startup, or is it kind of companies that are already doing a decent amount in revenue, or what does that kind of look like?
It's 50/50 because most of the startups are, we don't do, or the folks in our network, I'm talking about the venture fund, we don't do raw startup, seed capital, angel fund, anything like that. We're expecting some level of monthly revenue already. And it's not just us, it's the investors we represent, banks and funds and uh, family offices and high net worth individuals such as school. But yeah, it's usually, sort of somewhat established companies. And then we can talk to them about a couple of different things. We can go equity, which is what everybody sort of thinks about, but there's also debt, which is actually easier to get. Don't give up control of your company to a certain extent. So yeah, building companies more often than not, or at least the things I'm looking at things that people are adding AI to their companies, even the established companies.
Gotcha. Okay, so people that are enabling AI in that way and everything like that. What ways have you seen or have you guys been implementing AI with Master Turtle because Maker Turtle? Because there's a lot of different things that you can implement AI with, whether it's through fulfillment process or acquisition process. What are some maybe creative ways you guys are currently using AI?
Well, what when I'm building is leveraging. I'll go techie a little bit. Basically, I've got all my notes and preceding the journals for the last 35 years, and I'm loading it up in a RAG database and making it available to as a virtual CIO. But inside of that, there's going to be the ability to sort of understand this is where your company's at in AI in all these 5 dimensions. It's a maturity model. It's a very rich maturity model, but then you'll be able to understand uh, not how to be gold-plated perfect and everything, but really what does good look like. To be able to compare your, sort of self-defined maturity level with peer companies in the same industries and same locations, and be able to understand, actually we're not doing that bad. Of the 5 different or 6 different things that we could be investing money in right now, this is probably going to have better payout than that. So everybody's going to have opportunities all over the place. To your specific question, what areas I'm seeing it much more in operations and supply chain. That's my background on industrial manufacturing, in corporate world. So a lot of stuff in logistics planning, supply chain planning, visibility, stuff like that. Areas where the signals are hidden in a lot more noise, and AI helps to pull that.
Definitely. I see. Okay. And is that mainly through, are you using a specific integration or code or automation with that? Because a lot of the times, especially for marketing lead gen, like the space that we're in, we are mainly using that for intent signals, mainly using that for enrichment on data on lead lists. So how does that kind of play a factor in what you guys are doing? I know you mentioned logistics and things like that, but just kind of briefly touch on that a little bit more.
Well, I suppose, if it's a tools thing, it's really what tools because we're not a systems integrator. We're not we're more strategy stuff like that. So I'm building things and I have opinions on tools, but really the most important one is how your vendor or how your tool interacts with the hyper scale. That's Microsoft and Google and AWS and things like that. Because if you have scale, that's what you're going to be sitting on. I think it's kind of that level thing. The the world of data management, data planning, and AI is moving super fast, but actually in a lot of ways really well established. I mean, just adding something that takes like I remember these guys had a scanning application that would scan POs or invoices and automatically enter them into your ERP and pay them for it. And the payback was that, back in the day, people have been doing that for a long time. Back in the day, you get 65% accuracy in your scanning. You're doing pretty good. What these guys are getting like 95 to 98% accuracy in scanning because of using AI. So it's really a process that's already been automated, but there's always a bit of fuzzy, and the AI is helping to accelerate or take out the fuzzy.
Definitely, definitely. See what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. I like that application. I think that a lot of people are definitely thinking AI is going to like completely deteriorate the majority of the market and businesses, especially now in the online space. What's kind of your take on that? Obviously, there's been other time periods in the world, I don't know, 90s, 2000s, dot-com bubble, internet bubble, marketing
Yeah.
bubble, where things have came up and things have risen and collapsed, housing market too in 2009. So like how have those bubbles and changed, how do they compare to the AI bubble? And what do you kind of see moving forward as we kind of close out the conversation?
Well, that's a good question. I think that, yeah, change comes and change goes. And the people that really are making the most noise are the people, a relatively small set of the population that are going to be directly impacted. When the internet came along, it blew away newspapers. So it fundamentally changed magazines and stuff. And tons of other opportunities. So beginning, companies take a new technology and they go right to the bottom line. How can I save money? How can I like cut costs? And that's not, you can't cut your way to success. And so the next level is how do I change the nature of my product in the marketplace? How do I actually grow the top line or grow my share? And that's a growth thing, and then that's going to be the next phase. And then the final phase after that is when it's really interesting. It's when we use this new technology to do fundamentally different kinds of products, creating completely different products. When the internet was invented, everybody was like having fun cutting costs for printing stuff. No one could have envisioned an Uber or a Lyft, this concept of shared rides and stuff like that. And it was only enabled by mobile phones and the internet. But it was kind of a business that no one could imagine when the internet first started. So we don't know what cool stuff is going to happen. There's tons of opportunity for cool stuff, tons of opportunity for bogus stuff, and change means individuals will get impacted, but that just kind of goes on, and it happens to all of us. Everybody gets impacted over their career once or twice. It's just the nature of life.
Definitely. I see. So the fluctuations are there, they're present, and everything happens and it just kind of flows like that
Yeah.
and stuff. Okay. Yeah, definitely makes sense. And looking forward for the business, Maker
Mhm.
Turtle, the website, initiatives, where you want to go. Where are you looking at being in the next 5 or 10 years? And
5 years. Well, I'm well established making money because there's another website that we haven't mentioned yet on my list. It's called Talking Tree Ventures. So what I'm building all this for is to generate or create an investment fund, very specifically an investment fund that's in for sustainability, specifically green investing, very specifically forestry economics, and fire management. Things that are important to me because I grew up near the mountains in California and I've seen plenty of people's houses burned down and been rained down by sparks. So I get the importance of forestry and I get the importance of fire management. And so in 5 years, I'll definitely have probably switched at least 50% over to running that fund. But right now, I'm just trying to raise some funds.
nice. I like that. It's a good mission, definitely. Especially, and which part of California was that again?
Uh, Southern San Bernardino.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with kind of the Redondo Beach area. If you're okay, sweet.
When I was a kid, uh, uh, the family beach was Huntington, and the high school beach where one of my buddies that was Fort.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out of your morning to jump on RevTalks, Jim. I had a pleasure speaking with you, and hope you had a good time on here.
Oh, good. Yeah. Thanks so much.